the author of Who Packs the Parachute, and co-author of Teen Power 2 and Teen Power and Beyond. He is dedicated to helping others improve themselves through the use of each person's individual talents, skills, abilities, and mental attitude. His speaking provides individuals with numerous keys to successful living. His unique ability to make people laugh keeps the audiences on the edge of their seats and wanting more. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Patrick Grady.
Thank you, Carly. Georgia DECA, how you doing? As you heard Carly say, my name is Patrick Grady, and I actually live in a place called Wahoo, Florida. So one time, everybody say Wahoo! That's pretty good. Chances are nobody knows where that is. That's about an hour north of the Tampa International Airport, and I am honored and thrilled to be part of Georgia DECA this year. But I will ask you this, how many of you in here like to laugh? Let me hear if you like to laugh. I hope that for the next little while we can laugh a little bit, maybe we can learn as we go. Anyone that's ever seen me or heard me present knows I like to start things off the exact same way on what I call a very positive note. I want you to turn to the person on each side of you and say, you are the best looking person I have ever seen. And say, I was just joking. But I love to hear people laugh. I think it's one of the greatest things we can do for our mind and our body. But I have also discovered in my travels that there are different types of people in every audience. In this audience today, I watched you as you came in. I saw you last night. And I noticed there's some of you that fit some of this criteria. There's some of you that walked in here that are what I call the vacationer. And when I explain what I mean by vacationers, if that fits you, you're allowed to make noise and scream. The vacationers, the ones of you that are in this audience, they're in this room. The vacationers are sitting there going, I'm glad I'm not in school today. I love you, vacationers. And then there's the ones I call the prisoners. You prisoners are the ones that are saying, if my advisor did not make me check in with them this morning and be in this session, I would still be up in my room sleeping. Some of you going, it is too early. You shouldn't have to get out of bed before noon. But my favorite people, and I fit this criteria myself, my favorite people are what I call the learners. You learners are like me, and I can see some of you on the front row, I can see on some of the rows, you are sitting there with a piece of paper, a pen or pencil in your hand, some of you may be using your phones, and you're going, I'm a learner. Maybe he'll say something I can write down. Are there any learners in here? I'll take it a step further. The learners are like me too. We keep lists of everything we need to do, everything we need to accomplish, all the tasks we want to take care of. If you do that, put your hands up. Let me ask you this out loud. Tell me, once you accomplish something that's on your list, what do you then do? Cross it off. How many of you take it a step further? If you do something that's not on your list, how many of you write it down? And then you cross it off. How many of you do that? Yeah, I do that too. And you know what? They have medication for people like this. But I'll tell you, I'm a former middle school and high school career and technical educator. When I say career and technical educator, for those of you that are not familiar with that term or terminology, I taught, for example, like your educators that are in this room, taught marketing, that type of thing. I was a career tech educator. I was a member of 2 student organizations very similar to yours. But when I was in 8th grade, any middle level schools, any student middle levels, let me hear you. Let me make noise. When I was in 8th grade, remember being in 8th grade? When I was in 8th grade, I had an amazing, incredible English teacher who had a task that we had to do. All of you, I venture to guess, from the back to the front, from the left to the right, at some point in your life, some point in your educational career, does not matter if you're a student or an educator, maybe a chaperone, you had to do this as well. Ms. Connor made us go to our school library. You have gotten sophisticated, and you call it the media center. And we had to check out a book. Not only did we have to check out a book, we had to do what with the book? Read it. And then Ms. Connor required us, after we checked the book out, we read the book, we had to write a book report about what we read. If you've done that, say, oh yeah. But Ms. Connor took it an additional step. She required us as 8th grade students. She had a small table in her classroom with a very small podium on it. And she required us as 8th grade students to stand in front of our classmates. And we had to deliver. We had to deliver that book report as a speech. And I will tell you this, as an 8th grade student sitting in that classroom, waiting for my turn to come, I was terrified, I was scared to death. Just when you talk about in marketing and education, in this great organization we call DECA, where we have the opportunity and the chance to compete for awards and recognition, to take what we've learned in the classroom and put it to use, challenging ourselves to be better and better and possibly win. But we get nervous sitting in class. But I love stories about what I call ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things with their lives. Read a story about a lady by the name of Wilma Rudolph. Wilma Rudolph was born premature at only 4½ pounds on a small farm in the backwoods of Tennessee. When Wilma was 4 years old, she contracted double pneumonia, scarlet fever, and a terrible, dreaded disease called polio. The combination of those illnesses left Wilma with a paralyzed and useless left leg. The doctors and the nurses used to tell Wilma's family, she will never walk. Her mother's only response to that was a line from a favorite hymn that they used to sing in their church. Her mother would say that Wilma could climb her highest mountain if only she would take one step at a time. The very first step that Wilma ever took was a very painfully massaged step. They had to teach Wilma to walk with an ugly steel brace that they strapped and buckled to her left leg. You might think that she just stood up and started walking. It didn't come that easily. It actually took Wilma 5 torturous years. 5 years to even learn to walk with that steel brace on her left leg. When she was 9 years old, she went to a doctor's appointment. She sat down in a chair. Once again, the doctors and the nurses were in the corner talking about her future, her prognosis. And as they were discussing her future, they heard a noise. When they looked, Wilma sitting in that chair as a 9-year-old child reached down and she unbuckled that steel brace and simply dropped it to the floor. Then with nobody's help, no assistance whatsoever, Wilma stood up. She stood up and she took one solitary step without the brace on her left leg. Yes. When she was 13 years old, 3 things happened to her. First, she entered a Tennessee high school. Second, Wilma Rudolph joined the track team. And third, she assumed the nickname Limpy Rudolph. And the reason was she would actually limp into last place in every single event. But she would shout above the laughter of her teammates and her friends, and she would tell them, I will never give up. I promise you, I will never ever quit trying. Finally, one day, Wilma did win a race. Now with a feel of victory in her heart, she began to run with a wild determination and a reckless abandon until one day she not only won a single race, she won every race she entered in. in the entire track meet. And on that particular day, her teammates and her friends decided they could no longer call her Limpy Rudolph, so they selected a new nickname which became Lightning Rudolph because of her lightning fast speed. Her senior year in high school, she's in a track meet. They've run their races and they've won. She's sitting around with her teammates and they're talking about going on to the district finals, maybe the regionals and even state. Just as you as DECA members do when you think about, you know what, when I compete locally and win and I do a great job, I can take it to the next level. But as she's sitting there speaking and talking with her teammates, a gentleman kind of eased his way onto the field. He came over to where Wilma was, looked down, and said, "Excuse me, are you Wilma Rudolph?" As the story goes, Wilma stood up, extended her hand, and said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Wilma, you don't know me. My name is Ed Temple. I'm the track coach at Tennessee State University. I'm so impressed with you as a student and as an athlete. I want you to come to my college, Wilma. I want you to run track for me." The smile on Wilma's face quickly disappeared. She said, "Thank you, Coach. I'm sorry I can't." Coach Temple said, "Wilma, why can't you come to my school? Why can't you be part of my team?" She said, "Coach Temple, you don't understand." She went on to explain that her parents had never graduated from high school, that she was a very poor child. They had very little, almost no money. She said, "Coach, I'll be the first child in my family to get a diploma, and we've talked about college, we've dreamed about college, but I'm sorry, we can't afford it." Coach Temple smiled and said, "Wilma, you don't understand. You're a very good student." Wilma was not a straight A student, but like most everyone in here, she took her studies seriously because she knew that education was the key to a bright future. He said, "Wilma, if you will come to my college and be part of my team, I'm prepared to offer you a full scholarship. Just be part of my team. I'll cover your books, your tuition. I'll give you a place to stay. Come and just join us." She goes home that night. She tells her parents about that opportunity. They say, "Go for it, Wilma." A few weeks later, Coach Temple comes to her school. With him, he brings what he calls a letter of intent. Some of you may have heard what that is. Very quickly, I'll explain it. Letter of intent is basically a contract and obligation between the athlete and the scholar. An individual that might be in this room that's great in music, band, you as a competitor in this great organization. And he brings it and he says, "You know what, we're going to provide the books and tuition and place for you to stay, but you have an obligation to us as well. You'll maintain your grades. You'll uphold the high standards of our college, our university, our trade school, whatever the case may be. You will show up for practice. You maintain your grades." And it's not just a verbal agreement. They sit and they sign it. They sign this letter of intent, this letter of agreement. Wilma goes home from school that afternoon. A few months later, she graduates from high school. How many of you are ready to graduate? High school, she goes away to college, and it's a college she had only seen pictures of. Because Wilma was a child in a different day and age. They didn't have the internet. The only telephone in her community was located at a small country store. Only the wealthiest of the wealthiest had TV. So she was going away to a college she had only seen pictures of in a brochure. She goes in her bedroom, she gathers her meager belongings. When I say meager belongings, ladies and gentlemen, she had basically the clothes she wore, the shoes on her feet, everything else she carried away in a brown paper sack she'd gotten from the grocery store. Why do I tell you that? Because too often people sit around and they focus on what they do not have instead of what they have or what they can create. Many times we focus on there's too many obstacles, so I'm going to simply give up, I'm not going to try. You think you got it rough sometimes, and I don't know what challenges you face in your life. I know what challenges I've had to overcome. I won't bore you with those, but life is not always easy. And for Wilma Rudolph, it was very difficult. But again, I will tell you that education, being involved in her school, creating a future, taking ownership of herself and her responsibilities, made her become the person she was. Because she worked so very hard that in 1960, Wilma Rudolph earned the right. She didn't get her name drawn out of hat. She was not a lucky lottery number winner. She earned the right to represent the United States of America in the International Olympics in Rome. the Olympic Games on television. The Games in 1960, very similar. The events themselves almost identical. The technology, the filming, that type of thing, the television coverage is different. The events themselves, very, very similar to today. Imagine, if you will, an Olympic stadium with thousands of people from around the world gathered to watch the Olympic Games. On the field, our athletes are warming themselves up mentally like you do before you go into competition. Preparing themselves mentally for that competition. Preparing themselves and envisioning the victory. So some athletes are doing that. Others are running sprints, warming themselves up physically. But of all the athletes on the field that year, the one that was of greatest interest was Wilma. To everyone was Wilma. Why? She looked different from everybody else. First and foremost, she was an unknown black athlete. Very difficult time, challenges she had to overcome. Unknown, people didn't know where she was. Everywhere she walked with that limp. People were sitting in the stadium asking the questions out loud. They weren't quiet. Like, dude, what's she doing here? What's the United States trying to prove? That girl can't even walk. How is she going to run? How is she going to compete against the best in the world? The United States is going to lose these events, and they haven't even begun. They discovered what Wilma Rudolph was doing in that particular stadium, that particular year. Because when that starting pistol cracked, Wilma Rudolph tore down that cinder path in a world record, 11 seconds. And she captured her first Olympic gold medal. Her next event was the 200-meter dash. 200-meter dash, this time she was competing against a girl from Germany by the name of Jette Haney, and Jette held the world record. So the runners lined up. Jette was favored to win, but Jette had never raced Wilma Rudolph. They line up, the starting pistol cracked. Wilma and Jette jumped to the lead, turning the race into a fighting duel, but with a burst of speed on the back stretch, Wilma snapped the tape and captured her second gold medal. A few days later, she's competing one final time in the event, this time 400-meter relay. The American team is challenging a German team that held the world record. German team is favored to win. Anchoring the German team, running last for them, and the relay is a revenge-seeking Jette Haney, who had vowed that she would not lose another race to Wilma. Running last for the Americans, Wilma Rudolph. Again, they lined up. The starting pistol cracked. The Germans and the Americans jumped to the lead, turned the race into a fighting duel. The first runners handed the batons to the second. The second runners handed the batons to the third. And when the third runners handed the batons to Wilma and Jette, Wilma Rudolph dropped hers. Jette Haney, the girl from Germany, raced all alone toward the finish line. Wilma's Olympic dream was over, her thrill of victory through. But instead of quitting, instead of giving up, she kept hearing those words of encouragement that came from her family, from her friends, from her wonderful, awesome teachers and advisors that said, never give up, never give up, never give up. Less than 100 meters from the finish line, Wilma reaches down and she grabs up that baton in one hand. And what Olympic records have come to call a miracle today, she pulled up next to Germany's Jette Haney. The two raced neck for neck, stride for stride. 90 meters go, 80 meters go, 70 meters, 100,000 people are on their feet yelling wildly because they knew they weren't just watching another race, they're witnessing a miracle. 20 meters go, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the tape snapped. Wilma Rudolph won. She captured her third Olympic gold medal, the first American woman in the history of those events to have ever done so. How easy would it have been, how simple for Wilma to have listened to those voices of pessimism that said, baby, you will never walk, you will never run and play with your friends. She came up in a day and an age when it was a challenge because of the color of her skin. And I will tell you, I'm so grateful that we live in a country, a nation, we're starting to understand that we are providing opportunity for everybody, and that's what DECA does. Opportunity for you to be the best that you can be. You will win sometimes, you will lose. Patrick Grady has lost many, many more times than I've won in my life. Wilma Rudolph lost many, many more races than she ever won. She came in second, third, fourth, fifth. Not that that's losing, but she didn't win the grand prize. When you win the grand prize, you should be thrilled. You should say, you know what? It was awesome and it was incredible. I got the chance to be the best I could be, and you did. But the times that I lost, I came in second, third, fourth, or maybe dead last in something, I learned more about myself than the times that I won. I was able to sit back and say, you know, why didn't I do as well as I thought I could? Because maybe I didn't try hard enough. I didn't work hard enough. Maybe I let my teammates down. Maybe I let myself down. But I was able to analyze. I will tell you this, it is okay to make mistakes. Try things. And if you learn from your mistakes, then they become lessons. Anybody in here has brothers and sisters? I'm so blessed to have 3 wonderful children. I am one of 9 children. My beautiful, amazing, miracle baby, firstborn baby daughter is sitting right here on the camera. Everybody say, hey, Brittany! I know she's going, really, Dad? Come on. I was on a 9-day road trip a number of years ago. Brittany has a twin brother and sister, a couple years, about 18 months younger than she is. I'm on a road trip, travel all over the country. I come back home from a road trip, been gone 9 days, and I love to work with teachers, corporations, students like yourself. I do that nationwide. I was 3 days in Oregon this week, get to go home tonight, then I'm off to West Virginia Monday. I love what I do. I love my work. Find something you love and you will do with a passion. Get home from a 9-day road trip, walk in the house. Now keep in mind, I've landed at the Tampa International Airport. By the time I get in my truck and get back to the house, it's about 10:30 at night. I walk in, my awesome, incredible former career and technical educator wife, Roseanne. We've been married 32 years, bless her heart. 32 years she put up with me. I walk in the house about 10:30. She has her thing, everybody has their thing. She's in the kitchen, she's got to clean the kitchen before she goes to bed. That's just her thing. She says, I want to go to bed with a clean kitchen so I can wake up with a clean kitchen. I walk in, been gone 9 days, right? I'm walking in, like, hey baby, Daddy's home. She laughed just like some of you did. Yeah, right. And she said something you may have heard in your house at one point or other. She looked right at me and went, mm-hmm. And you need to talk to your son. Any of you heard that? It's interchangeable. Your son, your daughter. Some of you heard it. I said, what did my son do? She said, I picked the children up from school. I was driving home and I asked this question. Do you have any homework? He said, yes, we do. So take care of that when we get home. How many of you, by show of hands, have people in your family that asked you that question? Yes, to get home. Brittany, her sister Ashley go to their room. Apparently they're working on their homework, but not my son. Apparently he went to study, and the study is the family computer. He's playing on the computer doing something. Roseanne says, I don't pay attention to it very much. She said, I walked by Brandon. Have you done your homework? No, ma'am, not yet. You need to take care of that. Yes, ma'am. She goes, 10 minutes later, I don't know, walk by, he's still on the computer. Brandon, have you done your homework? No, ma'am, not yet. You need to take care of that. Yes, ma'am. A little while later, third time, have you been there? I don't know how it is in Georgia. In my house, when you hear your first, your middle, and last name, it's time to move and move now. Can you relate to that? She steps in, Brandon, Patrick, Grady, have you done your homework? He said, no ma'am, you need to take care of that now. He jumps up, goes to his room, said he was in his room all night. Came down to eat supper, but he gave us the silent treatment. I know there's nobody in here that would ever give an adult the silent treatment. She said, off to the meal. He ate, didn't say anything, said me, Brittany, and Ashley had a great conversation, but not your son. Wouldn't say anything. Then he went to his bedroom, said, your son has been in his room all night. You need to talk to your son now. And I said, yes, ma'am. Walked down the hallway, climbed the stairs, walked into his bedroom. He's laying in bed. He's not asleep yet. I said, hey, buddy, I'm home. Mm-hmm. I've been gone 9 days. Mm-hmm. I said, I heard you're mad at your mama. I was just happy you wasn't mad at me. Now, I know again, there's not a DECA member in here. There's not an adult here that will ever just grunt at people. When you're angry. So I said, Brandon, I know my mom was upset with you, but I want to find out why you were upset with her. Maybe I can fix the problem. And I think that's something we do as leaders. And you do not have to have a title to be a leader. You find out what you can do to fix the problem, solve the challenge. So I'm trying to do that. I said, Brandon, I heard you're upset with Mama. I said, what did she do? I said, you gonna tell me what she did? I said, Mama told me why she's upset with you. You tell me why you're upset with her. I said, dude, you gonna talk to me? I said, man, are you mad at me? I said, man, I've been gone 9 days. I wasn't even here. You're mad at me? I said, what did I do? He looked right up at me and went, you married her. And it was, buddy, Suddenly, we hear this coming down the hallway. The mothership entered the room. And in the doorway, assumed this position. Have you seen this position? So what's so funny, my baby out of his bedroom, he was laying in bed, but he wasn't asleep yet, and I finally said, Brandon, you mad at me? And he finally wouldn't talk to me. I said, why are you mad at me? And he went, and you married her, it was funny. And we were laughing. My wonderful, awesome, incredible wife, Roseanne, looked right at my son and said, Brandon, we all make mistakes. And I said, but I wasn't here. But it was funny. Be willing to step up, step out. Be willing to make some mistakes, have some successes, have some failures, try some things that are new. We're going to wrap it up with this. We're going to do something that requires 100% audience participation. All right, including advisors, put your hands up like this. I'm going to say Georgia DECA. Let me feel your power. Together, we're going to clap 5 times quickly and stop. Go. 5 times again. Good. 3 times. 3 times. 1 time. 1 time. And we're going to stand up and yell, DECA rocks! You got that? Try it 1 time. Go. You got to do it loud. So you know, teenagers, you know this. It's not a good time until security shows up. And it's not a great time until they show up the second time. So we're going to rattle the roof. Are you ready? Remember, it's going to be 5 times, 5 times, 3 times, 3 times, 1 time, 1 time. DECA rocks. Here we go. Georgia DECA! You got to do it together. Georgia DECA! Now let me say, let me feel your power. Am I going too fast for you people? I'll slow it down. I'm going to say, Georgia DECA. Here we go! Georgia DECA! Hey!